Everybody needs a healthy amount of selfishness in their life. Now, quick disclaimer. I know that when you hear selfishness, you think greed, entitlement, self-centeredness. But I need you to think of selfishness like a scale. If 10 is like extreme, complete self-absorption, everything about you, basically a terrible person, then I'm talking about like a 3. Just enough to remember that you're also a person who needs respect and boundaries. Because I honestly believe that us women, we're taught the opposite. Be nice, smile, be accommodating, don't ask for too much. And none of these are bad inherently. But the extreme of this is now entering into people-pleasing territory. And it's a really slippery slope. And as a former people pleaser who had to learn how to develop boundaries and self-respect the hard way, here are 3 ways you can practice selfishness the right way. So one thing about me is that my spoken love language is acts of service. I'm that person who always goes out of my way for others, and I don't mean that to brag. Because to say no to someone will make me genuinely feel guilty. And hey, my name means the good one. So I take it as my destiny to be good to everybody. Now, where this started to be a problem is that because I will usually go out of my way for others, I started to build this resentment when I realized that other people were not necessarily doing the same for me. And another thing is that I noticed that people get entitled when they are used to getting yes from you and then you start saying no. It'll be like as if you've committed a serious crime. So I knew that things had to change, and this was a slightly painful discovery for me. But the downside to this is that it is a lonely journey. See, that journey to self-respect and setting boundaries, it is a very lonely journey, and you will lose friends on the way. So let's jump right into it. Number 1, if you are moving from being a people pleaser to developing healthy boundaries, you have to be selfish with your no's and your yes. Now, I'm not saying that you should become a selfish person or stop going out of your way for people, but you honestly need to realize who is worth your sacrifice and you say no to the rest. And here's the trick. After you say no, you need to sit with it. You need to let it marinate because you're going to feel good, you're going to feel bad, you're going to second guess. Oh, should I not just... No. You see that feeling that you are feeling when you've said no to a boundary or to an inconvenience that someone is about to put onto you. You see that feeling of selfishness, right? Yeah, that one. You need to sit with it. You need to get comfortable with it. Now you will feel bad. You will feel like you're being selfish. Sit with it. And the flip side is getting selfish with your yes. You need to be able to say yes to something and stop second guessing or doubting, asking yourself, am I even worth it? No, you deserve it. Yes, I deserve this. My sister and I, we shared a car. We shared my mom's car. Now, my sister would always prioritize herself over me, right? So every time she needs the car, she would always take the car, whether she needed to use it or whether I needed to use it. So I would always be the one to, take public transport or kind of accommodate her needs. But the first time she asked for the car and I said, no, I need it tomorrow. I said, I'm going to use it. It was like, what? She was not used to me actually pushing back. And I honestly felt bad. I really did. I felt bad for like 2 days. But hey, I was setting healthy boundaries. I needed her to know that, hey, you have equal access to this as I do. You can say no and I can say no, and the world will not burn down. And the first time I also learned to say yes. I remember when my older sister now, I came to visit her where she lived, and she asked me, can I come pick you up from the bus stop? And old me would say, no, don't bother because I'm trying to be considerate. Don't bother, I will take the bus. Now it was cold, it was a really cold day, and I was about to say no, but something said, she offered. There's nothing wrong with saying yes. There is nothing wrong with your sister picking you up from the bus stop. You need to sit down, relax, and enjoy the ride. So I said, yes. Because old me would have said, oh no, don't worry, I'll take the bus. It was of no inconvenience to her, so why can't I deserve this? Secondly, you have to be selfish with how you love yourself. Now this one is key because the Bible says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. As you love yourself. Not more than. So if you love others or you love your neighbor more than you love yourself, that means there is an error. And you are operating from a place of deficit. So 2 or 3 years ago was my sister's birthday. And we decided to take her shopping and just buy her a bunch of stuff. Now, by the time we were done with everything, she was looking at the amount and I was like, "Oh no, man, are you sure? Like, this is too much." She was kind of complaining that we had spent too much money on her. So I looked her dead in the eye. I said, "Would you spend this amount of money on your kids without thinking twice?" And then she laughed and she was like, "Yes, I would." So I said, "Okay, so the money is not too much. It is you thinking that it is too much for you." She hadn't come to a place of thinking that she deserved to be splurged on. So you have to learn to stop denying yourself certain things. If you like the dress and you have the money, buy the dress. If you like the makeup, buy the makeup. If you like the car and you have the money and you are not being extravagant and financially unwise, hear what I'm saying. But your problem is feeling like you deserve it. Please, you need to rethink that mindset. Because if you come to me, I'm going to tell you to spend that money. As long as you're being financially wise anyway. A friend of mine had always wanted to go on, a vacation. And she had been postponing for many years. And then this year she came back to me and was like, "Oh no, I have the money, but are you sure? Do you think, should I, can I, do I?" I'm like, what are you waiting for? Why haven't you booked the flight yet? Do I, can I? You keep rethinking if you deserve it. So please, no. You have to love yourself to know that, yeah, life is for the living. So stop denying yourself the pleasures that you want, as long as you're not making a foolish decision. Thirdly, you need to be selfish about your standards. Because for other people to respect you, you need to have self-respect. And honestly, people can tell when you have no self-respect. That's why they walk all over you. Unfortunately, this one has nothing to do with age. You have to love yourself so much that there are just certain things that you wouldn't take. You set the standard for yourself and you keep to it. For example, I cannot be friends with rude people. I just cannot. I wouldn't even stay around enough for you to be rude to me. I will leave and not come back. So the people that I call friends, we speak to each other with respect. I've seen people in really, really toxic friendships and relationships and they still stay there. Why? So you need to set the standard for who you keep as friends. You need to set the standard for how people treat you. You need to set the standard for your ambition. And that can honestly help shape the kind of people that you keep around you and what feels good to you and not what is acceptable by everyone. Because at some point, growth requires to be a little inconvenient. And there'll be people who prefer the old version of you, the version who could not say no, the version who was easy to control. And you probably hear people say that you have changed. And that is what you want to hear. That is the point. Believe it or not, that is the point. That's when you know that you have gotten to a certain point. That's when you know you have set those boundaries, because now you have changed. It's not a bad thing, because you have to teach people what you are willing to tolerate. And if people believe that your boundaries are negotiable, they will negotiate. So the major distinction I want you to take away from this is you need to ask yourself, was I being selfish, or am I not used to considering myself? Because the wrong kind of selfishness is saying only I matter. That's the extreme. But the right kind says, I matter too. Not more than everybody else, but also. So I tell myself, Onome, you can be a good person without being endlessly self-sacrificing, because it honestly becomes exhausting and could eventually build resentment. Now don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.